friend, Al Gowan, over a great many years, and colleague, has asked me to talk about my course in calligraphy, and in particular, chalk calligraphy, which I'm pleased to do. And just recounting it all, I think I've been teaching chalk courses in calligraphy for something like 50 years. But looking back over the years, my first chalk calligraphy assignment was in the 4th grade with Miss Crawford, who asked me to illustrate on the front chalkboard Wordsworth's daffodil poem. I wandered slowly as a cloud, goes like that, and came across a host of golden daffodils beside the lake beneath the trees. So I did the lake, I did the trees, I did the daffodils. It took me all, pretty much the whole course. And of course, it was wonderful. Everyone thought I was a class artist in the 4th grade. So that was my first experience demonstrating an image with chalk, done spontaneously without affection. And curiously enough, the one course, all the courses I've taught over the years, and you do that when you're in academia at the college level for 50 years, you teach many, many courses, but the one course that persisted over time was this calligraphy course. And the course itself almost has no purpose. You wonder, what can I do with it afterwards? So when I first talked to students in different departments, I tried to explain that calligraphy is in large part a change agent. And what it does is that it allows you to tie in, of course, directly with typography. It ties in with the whole literary world of poetry and literature, because you are writing something. Eventually you write something that someone says much better than you can express it. So you get into literature, poetry, and lyrics. Currently, musical lyrics are very successful for students. And eventually you get, of course, into painting and drawing, because calligraphy has that expressive intention. So you run this whole range, and you can position yourself in any one of these 3 dimensions and do a life's work in any one of these 3 dimensions. So I started looking into it at Columbia, working with Arnold Bank, who had worked with Oscar Hawk. And my major advisor, who was wonderful at the graduate level, allowed me to take a 100 number course in Columbia School of Journalism, which was exceptional. The course number was 103 or 105, and it was with Arnold Bank, who was a master teacher, a difficult person, but a wonderful teacher. He knew the subject so thoroughly. And we explored like 4 to 8 alphabets, 10 alphabets, and I learned in time that most professional calligraphers have 10 alphabets under their command, and so did I. But eventually, I found myself reducing it in a reductive mode all the way down to one essential calligrapher's alphabet. There's full testing of all your capabilities in terms of control, discipline, structure, and that was the Chancery cursive alphabet. This is called the Cancelleresca cursiva. It's an alphabet that shaped itself after 300 or 400 or 500 years into this one perfected form that simply could not be improved upon. And it sort of was the end of the calligraphic mode, in that the only next step was that it was on the cusp of typography. And from that moment on, I think the typographic revolution developed. And at about that time, a man, calligrapher named Arrighi, working also with 2 other Italians, Tagliente, and Arrighi, and Palatino, whose names are now familiar as typefaces. But I chose the Arrighi alphabet because, of course, it had a manual. A manual is called La Operina. And in the Operina, he describes every stroke possible to construct the 26 letters of the alphabet, and concentrates on the lowercase alphabet. And I found out later that all 3 had a slightly different mode of the Chancery cursive alphabet. And all the way through, there were probably 30 calligraphers about the same time that had their understanding of what the Chancery cursive alphabet was. But I started with Arrighi because he was precise. He had a strong letter, not as strong as the Spanish Yacir, but a strong letter and a complete description of how the alphabet was put together. And eventually, John Howard Benson put together a translation of the Operina in English, following the language description that Arrighi had put down. So working with what came through was that every every accomplished calligrapher had their own sense of what the Chancery cursive alphabet was. And there are 30 available alphabets, and I tell the students that. So when they're learning this alphabet, this Chancery cursive alphabet, they're learning a translation by a committed calligrapher, but in terms of how that calligrapher saw the alphabet. So the alphabet that I practice is one that I've refined over 50 years. And I put it into a systematic mode where things fit into little groupings, almost like type descriptions. And the way I start is like this. I always ask my students at the very beginning that we will start at the beginning, from ground zero. And it's interesting how you get back to ground zero in time. So the point of time I'm at right now is so close to the 3rd grade where I first began these exercises. And this woman, this wonderful woman, Mrs. Good, who taught at the Lucretia Crocker School in Jamaica Plain, was teaching penmanship, but every session, learning how to write words and letters, she would insist upon a push-pull exercise. And let me demonstrate it for you, give you an idea of where I started in the 3rd grade. And of course, this was the blind paper, so I always put blinds down. There was no scale even mentioned, but we would start with an exercise. Let's get mine over there. An exercise that would, like so. And every morning, we would do this with pen and ink. And it got to be absolutely satisfying. And most of us were kind of thrilled that when we got our muscle control together, where right now the back of my shoulder is doing all of this work. And this is called the push-pull exercise. And it goes on right across the whole page. And I'll stop at about here, because the significance of it is that you don't realize it, but actually on all your, later on in the construction of calligraphic alphabets, all your upstrokes are no pressure, and all your downstrokes are pressure. And this is exactly that. You're going up like this with no pressure, and you're coming down like this with pressure. So no pressure, pressure, no pressure, pressure. You can think of letters that, in order to make this letter, for example, I'll make several. You would have to have pressure, no pressure, and then pressure. So exactly what happened here is happening here. And if you carry it a bit further, pressure on the downstroke, no pressure up, and then on your downstroke, it's just the same thing as a push-pull stroke. And you can repeat these endlessly, overlap them, you get into all kinds of configurations. Now, the second part of this exercise were the circles. And they would go pretty much, I can add them right here, I think, where after we completed this push-pull exercise, we did the circles. And they would go like this. And I don't have the line up there, but it pretty much should be under control. And eventually, while you're working, it got very exciting in that you could see the whole tunnel effect. You could actually, when you begin to perform in scale, you can begin to see a wonderful tunneling effect on this. And this is made exactly like this. No pressure, downstroke. I mean, no pressure on downstroke, excuse me. No pressure upstroke, pressure on downstroke. And so years later, when demonstrating with my students, I'll come in, and just to get their attention, I'll do something like this. And they're kind of amazed by it, but it's exactly this and it's exactly that. So that's how this third grade exercise, I was probably 8 years old, and these strokes, when I'm probably decades later, are very much the same thing. So it's a wonderful cycle of continuity, a nice closure.